Professor Milk, oh. Hello class. This intro will be a bit different. Let us, as we get into this Veigar guide, take a break from the bouncing typography that we've all come to know and hate if you've had the unfortunate displeasure of watching my videos prior to today. I'd like to take a moment to appreciate... Hold on. There we go. I'd like to take a moment to appreciate the constructive feedback you guys have bestowed upon me. I read every comment that gets posted on my YouTube videos, but unfortunately, I can't respond to all of them because I'm way too famous. However, I save the constructive ones and store them in my ideas bin, with all the rest of the helpful feedback my audience has given me. So, as you're watching this work of art, please note of anything I can improve on in the comments below so I can ameliorate my content planned for the future. I hope my plea didn't take too much time out of your busy day, so let's get back to the old grind. Thank you for joining me in Veigar, Changing Playstyles. I'm Professor Milk. Let's get started. Alright, can anyone name Veigar's glaring weakness? Correct. He doesn't do enough damage. More specifically, he doesn't do enough consistent damage. When a teamfight starts, Veigar blows his load on either the mid laner or the AD carry. Now, what does he do after that? Correct, nothing. But we can fix this. Another problem Veigar has is that all 4 of his spells are skill shots, so his DPS in teamfights is terrible when wielded by the unskilled player. But once again, we can fix this. Let me give you guys the rundown of his abilities so we can go into more discussion about advanced tactics. Abilities. Q. Baleful Strike. This spell is what butters Veigar's bread. This ability is a short-range skill shot that can hit 2 targets in a straight line. If a minion is killed with this spell, Veigar is granted 2 AP per kill for 1 hour. 5 AP is granted on large monsters, cannon minions, and champions. Passively, if Veigar gets a kill or an assist, he is granted 10 AP even if he doesn't get the kill with his Q, resulting in a maximum of 20 AP from 1 Q. W. Dark Matter. Useless. Max this ability last. It takes about 45 seconds to drop from the sky, so the only way you're gonna land this ability is if the enemy's AFK, as Veigar doesn't have any hard CC to hold them still. I personally asked many high elo players about this ability, and they all said verbatim, "Milk, get the fuck away from me," but implicitly, I'm confident they all agree. E. Event Horizon. For all those unfamiliar with basic astronomy, an Event Horizon is a 1997 sci-fi film directed by Paul Anderson starring Lawrence Fishburne. Amazing movie. This ability places a rounded pentagram on the ground, and if the enemy comes in contact with the edge, they are stunned for 3 seconds. But don't worry about always landing this spell on the edge, because at rank 5 or level 13, this ability does damage over time in the center. R. Primordial Burst. This ability separates the mediocre Veigar players from the amazing Veigar players. Primordial Burst is an extremely long-range skill shot that is extremely difficult to control. Sure, short-range, non-moving targets are easy to hit, but once things get longer range, it can get sticky. To aid you in landing these hard-to-hit targets, I recommend buying the Logitech G920 Driving Force Racing Wheel for Xbox One and Windows from your local electronics store to help land those sick nasty ults. My typical setup looks something like this. As per usual, let me show you guys some classic sheep builds, then let's go over my build. We have, you guessed it, the classic, the gambler, the stacker, edgy, and the milk build. I understand you may have questions and concerns, I get that, so I got a few friends to help me break this build down to make it more clear. But let me preface these interviews with a bit of a warning. These interviews are probably the worst ones I've ever had. So, just like you're watching NA at Worlds, go in with low expectations and it'll seem a lot better. Without further ado, this is Wise Words from the Pros. Our first guest is a very big name League player. He's the sole survivor of the TSM Holocaust of 2015. If his salary was made public, it probably wouldn't matter too much because most of us can't even count that high. The 1v1 Burger King himself, TSM Bjergsen. At a modest and reasonable $3 per question, we ask him.
Professor Milk donated $3. I'm a huge fan, been following you since the end of Season 5. I would love if you can help me with a Veigar build and give it a review. Rabadon's, Void's, Sorcs, Nashor's, Lichbane, and Ruunan's.
He responds.
Fucking Professor Milk. Probably don't do that. Pro tip.
Literal sigh. I know guys, I know, but I will not be rejected that easily. It's just like my senior prom, folks. All you have to do is keep asking the person over and over until they finally agree with you. It's an amazing tactic. So, for round 2, we ask him.
Professor Milk donating, I'm sick of this oppression, this betrayal to your audience. I will shell out $3 once again for the good of my people. Please review my Veigar build. It's perfect. What did you change? Did you like change up the order of the items? I think? Or no? Or is it still the same? It's great. Don't worry. I'll pull it out on stage. I can't pull it out in practice because I want to keep it secret.
Folks, this is how you get the real answers. Thorin, Travis, Griffler, whatever his name is, all those other journalists could never get the dirt that I can, which is why I, Professor Milk, am the greatest journalist in esports history. Thank you. Our next guest plays for the other team, and by that I mean he's a slimy European player, but he's pretty well known. In some of the comments I've received, people have requested to get a wider variety of talent for this segment, so here we go. Our next big name guest is known for his amazing ability. So I told him, no, I can't be your personal League of Legends coach. Besides, I don't think you have the budget for me. But back to the topic at hand, please welcome Froggen. At a slightly overrated price of $4 per question, we ask him.
I don't usually ask EU players for help because NA is the best region. But some of my fans wants to hear from you. I guess, can you review, critique the Veigar build? So far you have Rabadons, Void, Sorcs, Nashors, Lichbane, Ruunans. What? I don't know if you're trolling me or not. Nashors 2, I don't think you need Ruunans. Fucking, if that's Ruunan's Hurricane, then I think you're doing something wrong, dude. No offense.
Guys, you know me, I really dislike Ruunan's Hurricane, but for this champion, it's a must. And we'll go over why in just a moment. First, let's cover all the need-to-know information. Runes. Attack speed quins, hybrid pen reds, armor yellows, and scaling MR blues. Masteries. We'll be running 12-18 with Thunderlord's Decree because that one is the least shitty. Summoner spells. We'll be taking Ghost Flash because we're Korean, and you'll be maxing your abilities accordingly. Now let's dig into the dirty and see how this build works. We all know that Veigar scales infinitely off of his Q, so CDR is very important, and this build has 30% from Lichbane and Nashors, capping you at 40% all game if you steal your jungler's blue. Ask for your jungler's first blue or try to steal it yourself. They usually want to give it to their mid laner, but are too nervous to ask. The items you're gonna rush are Nashors and Sheen. These make Veigar's early game, which is usually ass, extremely easy because he can push the lane hard so he doesn't have to farm under tower. The first thing that was brought up when I ran this build by Riot's balance team was that they probably need to nerf Thunderlord's Decree to make all masteries equally shitty and increase the cost of Zhonya's again. But they also said that it was a very low AP build. But you guys know the balance team, they're clowns. With this build, you can easily reach 1000 AP by late game if you properly play the laning phase. So don't come crying to me when you end the game with 600 AP. I taught you how to walk, but you gotta learn how to wipe your ass yourself. Let me just add that if the enemy team is not building MR, go with Wit's End instead of Void Staff as it's way more effective. Now what's happening with this build is that as you're infinitely scaling, so are your Lichbane and Nashor's auto attacks, turning you into a higher damage version of Kayle, as Ruunan's Hurricane will be spreading the infinite scaling to everything around you. The strategy is to dump your load on the first target, aiming it with your steering wheel attachment, then, using your Q, proc Lichbane as many times as you can, which is pretty easy because it's only on a 3-second cooldown. I want you guys to realize this. You will not lose any damage in your spells, but you will gain huge amounts of damage while your spells are on cooldown. All we're doing is taking full advantage of the champion's kit. Your autos will hit very, very hard, especially when you get Thunderlord's Decree on the 3rd auto. Trust me, you can duel anyone. And again, remember, only use your W, Dark Matter, to proc Lichbane. With this build, beginners will have an amazing time, as all you have to do is throw Qs and auto attack whatever you want, while seasoned high elo players will now be able to get the most out of Veigar. And we're out of time, folks. As always, use this stuff as a guideline. You have to take my advice and mold it to how you want to play the game. For more in-depth coverage of my strategies, check out my stream at twitch.tv/professor_milk, and be sure to bring money for donating, because I'll have my titties out. Godspeed.
Professor Milk.